I want to ask about if you can help me to connect with my inner guidance system, because from you and other people, I hear how exciting it is when they know that something is coming to them and they know where to turn right, where to turn left. And with me, I wonder if I have these feelings inside of me already. Yes. And I am using them daily and I never pay attention to them, or it's something once a year or something huge that...
Well, the most important thing that we want you to hear is that since it is something that is so natural, that often it's happening, you're responding to it, you're receiving the impulses, and that you don't even know that you are. In other words, this guidance is available to you all the time. And it translates in the form of emotions and impulses, you see. So we like to say to you, accept that from us and then watch for evidence of it. And the more often you acknowledge that, oh, this is happening, I just received this just now, then the more likely you are to be ready for it the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time.
And can you tell me from your own experience, when you communicate with Abraham, how do you feel it? Where in your body you feel it?
Well,
or
for Esther,
everybody is different?
Everyone is different to some extent. But the most important thing that Esther experienced, she was not reaching for this communication as such. She was meditating with the intent of knowing who her spiritual guide was, but she didn't have any vision of something that she wanted to do about it. So as she sat with Jerry, they sat every day for 15 or 20 minutes and just quieted their mind. And what Esther began to notice was in the absence of her normal chatter, she began to feel different. And we started to say that to you in the beginning, is that it's not this business of allowing your conscious awareness of your connection is not as much about what you begin to do as it is about the things that you are no longer doing. In other words, we want to say to you that when you stop doing that thing that blocks it, you'll be aware of it. And so what happens with most who are trying too hard is that they're looking, they're taking score. There's not something that's that obvious in the beginning, because some momentum has to increase before there is something that is really obvious about it, you see. And eventually, the momentum can increase enough, your expectation can increase enough that there are really obvious, overt experiences that let you know. So it's just a matter of believing, trusting, watching for it, and not talking about when it's not happening, but begin to talk more about times that you are noticing that it is happening. That really is the process.
Okay.
Be easy about it. And Esther wants to use the words, keep your ear to the ground, but it isn't about what you're hearing, it's about what you're feeling. Have you begun this process where you are awaking in the morning and deliberately reaching for good feeling thoughts and deliberately holding yourself into that good feeling place? And have you noticed that your day is unfolding in better and better ways? Are you noticing that deliberate attention to the way you feel has been making a difference in the things that are flowing into your experience?
Yes, if I have enough discipline to keep attention on it.
But you see, this is the reason that the subject of momentum is really helpful, because when we say to anyone who is wanting to increase their conscious awareness of this connection that meditation is a really good tool, and we encourage you to pick a time of the day, earlier in the day the better, because there is less that you're responding to that could keep you from it. So earlier in the day is better. And every day is really helpful because it is a progressive thing. So if you are allowing it and then not, and then allowing it and then not, and then allowing it and then not, the momentum doesn't move enough that you really have an awareness that it's really happening. But if you are allowing it and allowing it and allowing it and allowing it and allowing it, soon enough something really obvious will occur from which you will never go back. In other words, you will never wonder again. Esther remembers in the beginning for her, she and Jerry sat in meditation for about 9 months. And all they were trying to do is just quiet their mind. And Esther's understanding about that just meant don't think thoughts. And when a thought comes to your mind, just do your best to release it by focusing on your breathing. So Esther was counting her breathing in and out, in and out, in and out. Well, for quite a while, we were projecting thought to her, but she just breathed it away because she was not able to discern our thought from her thought because she was the translator of the thought. So it's logical that words that made sense to her would be the words that she is using to interpret. So she would just breathe more. And so after a while, quite a while of Esther just breathing it away, we began to offer her an impulse. And she began to allow the impulse. It was just a gentle impulse of movement. Now, quite a bit of momentum had taken place in Esther's experience before she was able to allow movement. And she found the movement to be very pleasing. In other words, it accentuated the sense of detachment. And it accentuated the feeling of euphoria. It accentuated the feeling of well-being. So she just sort of went with it. She allowed herself to sort of move in the way that we were defining. We were guiding the movement, and Esther was receiving. We were sending the signal, and Esther was receiving. And she was sitting in a chair, and so it was just her nose that was sort of waving around in the air. And then suddenly she realized that it wasn't just randomly moving. We were actually projecting her alphabet to her.
Wow.
And when she reached M, N, O, she realized it. And she said to Jerry, I'm spelling the alphabet with my nose. And Jerry immediately got a notebook and tried to read what her nose was spelling. It was incredibly awkward for him to read it from the other way. He encouraged her to look in a mirror so that he could tell which way it was going. He couldn't quite make it out. So that was the path of least resistance. And the reason that we're giving it to you in this detail is because there was no question in Esther's mind that she was not the mover of her nose. In other words, she could feel that the impulse was coming from somewhere else. Shortly after that, because Esther was beginning to feel some discomfort, because Jerry would wake her up in the middle of the night, prop her up in the bed, and ask questions to which Esther's nose was giving the answers. And Esther said to him, there's got to be a better way. And then one night, they were in bed, and she felt her hand beginning to thump, 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 thump. And she had the impulse. Esther was already winning typing contests. She was a very fast typer. Okay. And so she went to the typewriter, and she felt the impulse of her hands upon the keys. Not random, very specific impulse of her hands upon the keys. Well, now we're explaining to her, we were providing the energy. She was in enough state of allowing that she was able to interpret the energy that we were providing into something that was meaningful. We weren't typing letters. We weren't even typing words. We were expressing a strong enough momentum of sentiment and understanding and meaning that Esther could not avoid the translation of it, you see. So for a few weeks, even a month or two, that was the way that we communicated with Esther. She would feel the impulse, she would go to the typewriter, and we would have conversation in that way. And then, not long after that, are you getting the sense of the momentum? Now, they were on a freeway in Phoenix, going around a corner that was very poorly banked. And Esther felt some worry that the trucks on either side were coming across. And she began to feel as if she was yawning. You know how you feel a yawn? You almost cannot stifle the yawn. It's an impulse that's so strong, you cannot stifle it. That's channeling too. That's an impulse that's coming from broader perspective. As the cells of your body are requesting something that you're not consciously giving, that's what that is. So Esther began to feel this tugging. She began to feel these words forming. And we began to speak to them for the first time. Momentum, momentum, momentum. Now, for those of you listening in who have been listening to recordings, your process will be different from this. In other words, you won't have to be talked into that. In other words, if you're understanding that non-physical is aware of you, and if you're understanding that you've been asking questions, and if you're understanding that non-physical has answers, then you can sit in greater and more efficient readiness than Esther was sitting in, you see. For her, it was a different process than it will be for you. But with all of you, with each of you, if you are desiring it, it will be a progressive process. The most important thing is don't question what's coming.
Okay.
Esther said to us hundreds, maybe thousands of times. She said it just now, right before this segment. Abraham, I want to speak clearly your words. So don't push it. Don't try to speak it. Don't try to think it. Just allow it to flow. And the more momentum flows, the more confidence you will garner about your ability to receive. It's a really good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I have
Something
time
more?
for one more? I would like to know how to use the power of crystals to bring my conscience or to be more aware of myself.
We think that while that can be fun, it's a step back from what we just discussed.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Why look to something outside of you?
Well, because all the stuff that I was reading, it's teaching the empowering, the amplifying the energy. And technically right now I'm in the state I really don't need to worry about that. I have everything within myself.
Esther asked this similar question early on in her process. And a woman that she had met was in possession of several beautiful crystals. And some of them were small, some of them were large, and all of them were said to be amplifiers of energy. And so Esther said to us, which one should I choose? And we said, well, if it is true that they are amplifiers of energy, then choose the biggest one. But then take it with you everywhere you go. And then we said to Esther, and we say it to you, you are the crystal.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.